Hi, my name is Brady, and this is a demonstration of WebClient abuse using shadow credentials. This was inspired by a tweet from Al Hazred back in March, and he also did a demonstration on his stream recently. But since he's not currently cataloging his streams, I wasn't able to find this anywhere on YouTube, so I figured I'd go ahead and do this demo myself. This is something that I'm still actively learning, so if you have any well actuallys or anything like that for me, just go ahead and throw that in the comments, and I'll be able to check that out for research later. I guess I'll go ahead and jump into it now. So basically, the idea here is that on domain controllers, the SMB signing is enabled by default, but LDAP signing is disabled by default. And then also, since machine accounts can write to their own shadow credentials by default, we should be able to coerce HTTP authentication to ourselves using curb relay X and the printer bug Python script. And then we should be able to relay to LDAP using NTLM relay X and then create new shadow credentials for that machine account. So basically, we should be able to use those shadow credentials for a full machine takeover. So the prerequisites for this one are we need a domain account, and that can be credentials, hash, and then I believe you can also do it with a TGT. I just haven't tested that myself just yet. You need the web client service to be running on the target machine, and then all the prereqs for shadow credentials. So ADCS service, functional run level of Windows 2016. And in this case, we're going to be doing this on Windows Server 2022. And then there are a few others, but you can just Google those. I'm not going to do a full rundown here. Checking out the lab for today, we're just running this on my ADCS home lab. We're not going to use any of the workstations. We're just going to use the domain controller and the certificate services server. We're going to be attacking the cert01 server. That's going to be our target. And then we need the domain controller here as well. Those are at 225 and 235 respectively. That won't really be pertinent because I'll kind of be walking through those, but just for your situational awareness. So yeah, with that out of the way, we can go ahead and jump into the lab here. So I'm just going to go ahead and make some notes here. We're going to be using this notepad a little bit just because I'm going to be moving around some commands. This is still stuff I'm working out of notes. I don't have all these commands committed to memory. So there'll be a lot of copy and paste, and hopefully you'll forgive me there. So basically, the first thing that we need to check is if that web client service is running, and we can use netexec to do this. So I'm just running netexec in the SMB mode. This is the target server, and then we have our domain user and password. It's a lab, so this doesn't need to be crazy. And then we just use the webdab module here. We can see from our output, web client service is enabled on, and this is the IP for cert01. So we're good there. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is get a NetBIOS name for our attacking machine. And the reason for this is if we go ahead and coerce authentication to our IP address, we're actually going to do it over SMB, and we want to do this by HTTP. And the way that we're going to do that is by adding a DNS record. We can use that in this case by using the curb relay X DNS tool Python script. And this is just going to add an A record. So you can see we have the script here. We have the domain credentials, the username. We have the password here. The DC IP and the DNS IP are the same in this case because DNS is running on the domain controller. The type of record is A, and I believe that's the only one that's supported right now. The record is this attack IP. This is arbitrary. This can be whatever you want it to be. We're just going to be calling this by name later. And then the action here is to add. The data is our IP address. In this case, this is just my WireGuard VPN IP address. So this is what I'm connecting to the lab with. And then our target here is the ADCS DC01 domain.lab. This is the fully qualified domain name here at the end. So we can go ahead and run this here. All right, and it says bind OK. LDAP operation completed successfully, so we know we're good there. If we wanted to check, we could go back here, and we don't need this data anymore. So let's grab that. And we're going to change this from add to query. And we'll go ahead and run that. And you can see found the record, bind OK, and then it shows our IP address in here as well. Now, something that I haven't quite figured out yet is it seems like this might be some cached information because this record does not always reflect immediately in DNS on the server. I think that's because of DNS propagation, but I'm not like a DNS wizard, so I'm not 100% sure on that one. The way I'm going to get around that in this case is I'm just going to do a jump cut. Sometimes this takes a few minutes, so I'll just go ahead and cut back to when it's done. Okay, I'm back here. I was able to confirm because I have access to lab that IP address is resolving now to attack IP via DNS on the domain. Kind of cheating because I can see into the DC, but just for the purpose of this demonstration, obviously you could just wait until it works. So the next thing that we're going to do here is set up our listener. Because PyOpenSSL actually broke backwards compatibility with part of Impact NTLM Relay X, and I think that was in an update back in March, we're actually going to have to install an older version. So here, you can do this in like a Docker container or like a Python virtual environment or something like that. I'm just going to do it the quick and dirty way and just uninstall and then just reinstall this 24.00 version. So go ahead and do that. It's going to ask me if I want to, and I'm going to say yes. And then it's going to give me some errors here at the end, just saying like, hey, like this breaks some stuff. But for the purpose of this demo, that's fine. And you could always reinstall whatever version you needed later. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run NTP date just to make sure that I am in sync with the server time, just because Kerberos likes to play some funny games sometimes. So I just always want to make sure that I'm in sync there. And all we have to do now is go ahead and set up our listener. So we're going to use Impacket NTLM Relay X. Our target is going to be LDAP secure on ADCS DC01, which is the domain controller using the FQDN here. The shadow credentials and shadow target. And you can see this is pointed to the ADCS cert01 machine account, and that's denoted here by the $sign. And then we don't want Impacket to do any like privilege validation or anything like that. So we're just going to do no validate priv. Okay, so that listener started up here. We can go ahead and open up a new pane, and we don't need my splash right now. And we're going to go ahead and start our coercion here. So we have printerbug.py from curb relay X. All we need here are the credentials, and this is going to be a little bit different format than it was in the DNS tool. And I'm not exactly sure why that is, but that's just kind of what's worked for me so far. So this is going to be the domain name, the domain username, and then the password is going to be @ and this is our target machine IP address. And then this is the NetBIOS name that we set up. So this can be whatever you set it up for. I just have it as DAC IP right now. And then something else to note is that we are attacking port 80 for HTTP on this one. If you have this fail, you can actually change the HTTP port and then try again. That's kind of the best way that I've found to do it in the past. But for right now, we'll just do 80. And then this is arbitrary, like it says here. This can be whatever file name you want. So we'll go ahead and run this. It's going to say bind OK. And then it gives this RPCS server unavailable, but that's not a problem for us right now. We can come back over to our listener, and we can see that our attack has succeeded. And the way that we know that is because it says save PFX certificate, and it gives us a certificate name. If your output doesn't have this, it means your attack did not work. Another thing that this tool does for us is it gives us the PKinit verbiage. And so we're just going to copy that. I'm going to throw it in a notepad for now, just because I'm going to be manipulating some of this. I want to run this from my opt directory, just because that's where PKinit tools lives. This cert PFX is correct. PFX pass is correct. Domain lab, this is our machine name here. You can tell because it is the machine account name, I should say, because it has the $sign. And then I'm going to add the DC IP, which in our case is 10.4.10.225. And then this is actually arbitrary. You can change this to be whatever you want your TGT to be called. So I'm going to call it cert01.ccache. And we can go ahead and stop NTLM Relay X here and go ahead and run this. And it's going to go ahead and save our TGT. Okay, so now that we've created the cert01 Ccache file, the TGT, we can go ahead and get an NT hash for that. And the way that we're going to do that is using the pkinit tools gethash.py. And this TGT name can be whatever we created. So in this case, it's going to be this cert01.ccache. So let me just go ahead and substitute that in. And we're substituting that into the krb5 Ccache name variable. And then we're going to be running the script after that. So we'll just run that inline. And then Python 3, this is the ops location, because this is where I have my pkinit tools again. And then the DCIP is already in there for us. The key is that asrep key. Let's go ahead and grab that from our output and just replace that in here. And then you can see it's going to run against domain.lab/ and this is the machine account. So we can go ahead and run this. And now we're able to get our NT hash for that user. So this I'm going to throw in my notes just because I want to hang on to that for just a second. If we wanted, we could use netexec to authenticate to that. So if we run, and I'm just going to get rid of webdev here. And then instead of password, we're going to have a hash. We can go ahead and put that in here. And then this is going to be our machine user account. So I can just copy that from up here. And we can go ahead and authenticate as that machine account. And you see it logs in, but we don't have admin status. And that's because machine accounts don't have remote administrative rights to themselves. But we can use this hash as well as the domain SID, which we can get here in just a second. And we can go ahead and forge a silver ticket that we can go ahead and authenticate with. So since we already have that hash, the only thing that we need is the domain SID. We can get that using RPClient here. And we're just going to use the domain user that we have access to and go ahead and log into RPC on the domain controller. Just have to put in the password. Oops. And I typed that wrong. Let's try that again. Yep. Don't try to type and do a video at the same time. All right. So RPClient, we just need the LSA query. And that's going to spit out the domain SID for us. Now that we have that domain SID put in, all we need to do is throw that information into Impacket Ticketer here. So we can grab our NT hash and sub that in, and then our domain SID as well. And then we have the domain already, domain.lab. The service principal name is going to be for the CIFS service on that ADCS Cert 01 machine. And this is the fully qualified domain name again. And this desired name, this can be whatever you want your TGT to be named. We'll just call it YT Brady for right now. We can go ahead and run that. And this is going to generate our silver ticket. Okay, so now we should be able to use this ytbrady.ccache TGT, and we should be able to authenticate to the server as an admin now. We can go ahead and put in our command here. I've already got this templated out. We're rewriting this KRB5 Ccache name variable. Now it's going to be the ytbrady Ccache TGT that we just made. And we're going to run Impacket secrets dump with no password using Kerberos. And then we're going to do ytbrady, which is just whatever the name of the Ccache file is, at the server name, and it's the FQDN in this case. So this is going to run secrets dump against the domain. Or sorry, against the workstation. And this is going to come out. And we have our local administrator server hash. So if we wanted, we could go ahead and use netexec again. And this time our hash is going to be this one. And our user is administrator. And there we have it. We now have full control over this machine. So like I said, this is still kind of a work in progress that I'm working through. I ran into a lot of bumps along the way with my lab, like not really cooperating with me. But I think this should be a relatively reliable attack from what I've heard from like Al Hazred's stream, and also some other things that I've seen about kind of the methodology behind the WebClient attack, not necessarily using the shadow credentials. Other than that, I really don't have anything else to share, so I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. Please leave me a comment if you have any thoughts or ideas about this video or how I can improve my methodology, and I will see you in the next one.